حور العين تناديني فدعيني أماه دعيني لتبكي دموعك يا أمي عن دربي لا لن تثنيني حور العين تناديني فدعيني أماه دعيني لتبكي دموعك يا أمي عن دربي لا لن تثنيني.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let's make dua inshallah. Let's start. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam. Tabarakta dhal jalali wal ikram. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina wa shafi'ina wa habibina wa maulana Muhammad wa barik wa sallam. Allahumma rabbana zidna ilman nafi'a wa amala mutaqabbala wa rizqan wasi'a wa shifa'a min kulli da'. Allahumma rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana وقنا عذاب النار فسبحان ربك رب العزة أما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Inshallah, we're going to continue our topic, Islam and Muslims in the modern world, and the subheading challenges faced by youths in modern societies. And we have reached a point on talking on the aspects of our youths and the challenges that they face. One of those challenges we talk about is religious profiling, and another aspect of it is the aspect of phobia and Islamophobia. And when we look at Islamophobia, it's a actual feeling that one gets out of fear, and irrational fear, not a fear that has some level of thinking in it, but it's something that is placed because people tell you something or you believe something that you don't really have no full knowledge of. And that fear is what creates a kind of panic on people when they would see people. That can only be raised when we observe certain rights. And we're discussing this topic, that what we can do to facilitate our youths and even ourselves as we are challenged by this phobia that is before us. It's a word that is of recent and that is not something that has happened in the past. Indeed, the Prophet ﷺ had people made these levels of phobia or types of beliefs around the Sahabas and himself, that they did not believe or accept them, and they would have fear for them and they would want to be around them. Those types of fear, those types of things actually grip the Muslims and the society at large, and they were actually, faced with these types of bias and types of, look from people regarding their belief and practice as Muslims. So we must remember that the Prophet ﷺ was the subject of horrible insults and hate crimes in his lifetime. That type of thing continues to exist till today. We're not denying that. During his time, he was actually, things were said about him, stoned or pelted at him, an animal gut was placed upon him, people used to throw rubbish upon him. So many things happened to him, but he still remained the prophet with integrity and never abused anyone despite all of that. So that tells us, despite whatever negativity is thrown at us as Muslims, we must find a way to deal with it in a positive way, in a way that can bring some meaningful change. Not to take it and get angry over it or to protest over it, but to give a logical and a very comprehensive response that will bring about a clear indication that such bad things that we put towards us must be repelled with some level of goodness. So we have to be strong enough and train our youths to be strong enough to firstly recognize that. And we must also know the Quran also tells us that we should repel, that good and bad are not equal, and we should repel that which is bad with something that is good. And we learned out of that ayat from the last session that we had. We also know that this incident of Islamophobia is not isolated. Whether it's a threat of someone telling us about Makkah, they want to bomb up Makkah, or calling Islam evil, or depicting the Prophet as a terrorist, disrespecting the Quran, discriminating against Muslims, people trying to burn the Quran, and they say all different types of things you hear. So sometimes when you hear these things, you hear the whole world started what? Muslims had to protest and they started to make noise, and yes, it may be a form of showing that, we don't like what has been said. It's right to actually let our voice be heard, but not to do it in a form that is actually what? Defaming someone else or attacking someone else. But yes, we have a right and we must be able to express that right, but that right must not be to destroy anyone else. It is like a freedom and a privilege that is given to every other human being when they also have a state when they feel that they are oppressed. And we must understand that whether we are Muslims or whether they are non-Muslims, once a person is oppressed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala listens to the supplication of the oppressed. And that is something we must be understanding of. So if we have oppression amongst us, or we feel that we are oppressed and we are wrong for something that we did not do, then we must know that definitely the dua of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be accepted from us. So Allah will accept our dua as long as we supplicate to Allah. So the first benefit we have under the rights of oppression and being oppressed is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept the dua of the oppressed. And that is a definite positive and a plus for us to take note of. So before any reaction, now is the time to raise our hands in dua. And that is a benefit out of any oppression or any type of insult or injury that may come our way. So therein lies also a benefit to us. So no matter what is said about Islam, then and now is the time for the ummah to be making dua, begging of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring change. And telling our youth the same thing. Don't just start to react or fight or get back to anybody like that. Now it's time to get closer to Allah's deen and start making dua. This is where our strength and our main benefit of guidance and protection comes. It comes from Allah. We cannot protect ourselves. The whole world decides to come against this ummah. Who can protect us? Only Allah. Only Allah can safeguard us and protect us. But if we have not built that strength, then how can we get that help? Sahabas themselves used to make dua, Mata Nasrullah, when the help of Allah will come. When they were facing oppression and pressure and difficulties from the non-Muslims, when they were facing different hardships, they would ask the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Mata Nasrullah, when will the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala come? Meaning that they will turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in dua and in supplication. This is also a very clear point, that we must know that even in countries like the United States, where there are many Muslims and non-Muslims, we know that whatever is mentioned there, we must take note of it, that not all media and all non-Muslim supports the type of insulting behavior that we see purporting against Muslims. Many have been at the forefront in condemning torture, bombing, and occupation. There are 75 million Americans and more who, despite all Islamic media, think positive about Islam and Muslim. In fact, in the European continent, many of the people are there accepting Islam. Many parts of the European world, they are accepting Islam. And they're continuously accepting Islam. The more they try to put more negative out there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give more of them guidance. Subhanallah. When we look at the weakness, then think of the positive outcome that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using that as a means to encourage people towards Islam. So the more they push negative towards that, those small little pockets of people who are trying to put that negative phobia upon the world, subhanAllah, they're only bringing more benefit to the Islam. They're bringing more success to Islam. Whilst there are many youths who may feel that they are challenged by this, that they feel that, what can we do to stop it? Well, our job is not really stop it. Our job is to curtail it by actually being positive. We cannot stop or tell someone not to do something. They can put laws in place, but still, if someone wants to do something, they will do it. If a person, you tell them, don't abuse your spouse, that's against the law, and they go and abuse their spouse. The law is there, but they still want to do it. If they still want, don't break the red light, and they still break the red light. The law is there, but yet they still what? Disobey. But the fact is that we have to be conscious about where and know that there are people, they are all not the same. And make sure that that happens, we have to continue reminding ourselves of what is that role when it comes to knowing and recognizing people. Don't judge everyone. Because someone tells you something about your Islam, or they make mention of Islam in a particular way, you look at everyone else, or every other non-Muslim in the same light. No, that is not right. Because there are the few ignorant ones who will behave like that. And yes, there are Muslims who are also in the minority who are ignorant, who will behave bad against what? non-Muslims. So we have to know that there are pockets of people and groups of people in small numbers who are there on either side to create this type of what? This type of anxiety and this type of approach of being hateful to one another, and that is what we have to try and curb. At least the majority of people do not behave like that. So when we look at it, to equate racism, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia, they all are fruits of the same tree of hate. Racism is a form of hate because people see a particular race of people and hate them. Islam doesn't have that. But yet, in the world, there are people who are Islam. None of the whole world is like that. Not every human being are like that. But there are few people and a group of people who have that attitude and that type of behavior, that type of thinking, and that is wrong. Anti-Semitism against the Jews. Not all Jews are bad. We cannot what? Make that claim. Because there are those who are what? Willing to help and support the Muslims and everyone in general. There are people like that amongst them. And Islamophobia, those who hate Islam, but there are many who would also what? Support Islam. And that even started at the time of the Prophet ﷺ with his old uncle, Abu Talib, his grandfather, and so many others who were around him who supported Islam. So we know that this mentality is not one thing by itself. So start using the word Islamophobia to describe any kind of hate crime or speech against Islam and Muslims. We must know that that has to be highlighted. So when we highlight it, it then becomes that negative now is understood that people who do such an action, they are committing a wrong act. Just like the people today, we know people who go and practice racism, such people will be branded as being people who are committing a great disgraceful act against a race of human beings. And that is what we want to highlight. That any time that someone would say something about Islam that is not right, that must be known that this person or this group of people is making such threats against Islam, which is not true. And hence, it will now be recognized as that that person is doing something wrong. Otherwise, if you remain quiet, then what's going to happen? The wrong will be looked as being right and accepted. So doing this will make the term uniform and eventually an accepted part of the English language and the way and the term as anti-Semitism is. Anything that goes against the Jews and does not look like by the Jews and their practices and is mentioned as anti-Semitism, it will be known. So likewise, anything that is said against Islam that is bad, it will also be recognized. So if you are involved in an interfaith work or bring up the topic of Islamophobia at your meetings, stress the urgency and the need for people of all faith to help address and condemn it and all other forms of intolerance publicly. If possible, get the organization to issue a public statement condemning Islamophobia in general, as well as in response to specific incidents like those mentioned above. We have to go outside there and spread that message once we recognize it. Now, one thing you'll find out is that here in Trinidad, we don't have that level of phobia or fear because there's an interrelationship with every single community that we live in, be it amongst the Muslims, the Hindus, the Christians. There's somebody in your family who might be a Muslim. There might be somebody in your family who might be what? A Hindu. Somebody in your family might be a Christian, some way connected. So they know each other to a great extent. And hence that level of, we would talk here, but it would not be a talk like we actually what? Hate. Maybe someone will make a joke or something like that, but they wouldn't go to the extent of what? Hating someone or running away someone. And that is the difference between here and different parts of the world. They are not part of that situation, but in Trinidad where we are more closer related to each other and we have a closer connection with each other. Despite being a Muslim, a Christian, or a Hindu, we have a closer bonding relationship. We share the island and we born and grow, and we came from that colonization era. We came from slavery and indentured servants, those type of things. all of that give us a level of commonality in which we share a relationship of even our religion and our race and what we practice here. So therefore we have a less of that type of, phobia amongst us in Trinidad as opposed to any part of the world. And hence we should take recognition of this and know that whilst it's happening over there, we must not let such things happen to us here. Allow people to antagonize us and to get us angry for things that, listen, we are not like that and we are not from that place. We are here and we're born and grow and live in an environment where Islam has been accepted. We have been recognized. We have everything here going for us. So we are not going to do anything to what? Destroy that relationship with ourselves and our native land. We must also look at one other aspect. Sponsor reports on Islamophobia. Unless more documentation and yearly opinion surveys are conducted, people will continue to dismiss Islamophobia as a reality. So even so far, even in the UK, is the only country which has officially commissioned a report on Islamophobia. This word has yet to become a part of the American media. Why? Because the UK and the European part of the world, they face the biggest challenge when it comes to the phobia and the level of rhetorics and the level of things that are said against Islam. They have most of the problems with terrorist attacks. They have different types of things happening in their land. So therefore they have a stronger dislike, because things are actually happening where you see people being killed. You're seeing different types of things being played out there where Muslim women have been, the hijabs have been pulled off and all different types of things are happening there. So therefore there's a higher tension amongst both sides of the fence. And when that is happening, there's also the influence of the media and the internet and all these different things that are encouraging them to what? With hate, to build up hate for one another. Both sides are being fed such venom that is totally wrong. That is totally wrong. That is going to create further divide. And therefore what is needed is that all these types of things that are being fed must be removed and it must be cleared up, so that such divisiveness and such separation must be removed from a society like that. So hence, yes, they make an effort by introducing this into their society so that they can have a lot of community, open forums where they can actually bring Muslims and non-Muslims and debate the issues, and you would look and see that they're making effort in this area so that they can educate their communities, they can educate their towns, their cities, so that the people around will be better equipped to help and support one another. That is needed in those societies. Maybe we start early, we could prevent things. Prevention, they say, is better than the cure itself. So therefore we make the effort in front. We put things in place for that to happen. And that lends a support and a benefit to us. If we can learn from those parts of the world, what they are doing is to prevent such walls and barriers and such, antagonizing situations to be built up. We should also make requests to the local library to purchase some of the latest books and articles on the phenomenon of Islamophobia. In other words, put literature outside there. Let people read. Let people know about these types of fears and what caused these types of fear. So if people are aware of it, then definitely they'll remove themselves from that fear. But if we do not educate through this means, then we are going to actually leave room for that. And therefore, we need to also constantly clear the air. Every time we get an opportunity to say something that is going to remove such a fear, we should do that. Create an avenue to remove fear from people, that they should fear Islam and they should have that fear. The other aspect that is important to inform our youths and ourselves is that report any and every incident of Islamophobia you, your family, or your friends encounter. Report it to the police. Yeah, anybody threaten you with Islam, report it. Anybody says something bad about Islam, or to threaten anyone in Islam or a Muslim, do a Muslim something bad, we need to report it. Why? Because that is going to also curb it. They're going to put a stop to it. But if you allow it to happen, then people will take advantage of this. They get away with it once, they get away with it twice, a third time, they will feel they can get away with it all the time. And therefore, as Muslims, when we live in societies like these, we also need to put a hold on the situation Don't tell yourself, well, if I go by them, they won't say nothing. No, you have a right. As a citizen, you have a right. And that is your freedom of your religion. You go and you make a report, and they must give you a report, a receipt. Take that receipt and keep it with you, because this is your evidence. Further things to happen again. If a few people in the community are affected like this, and this report going, then they will definitely have some means and measure of recourse that one must take if there is such an action. This is very important for our youth and anyone else to gather this level of information. When we gather this level of information, we are actually letting people know that we are not going to tolerate people saying bad things, not because we're doing this to spite someone. No, we are doing this to change the mentality of our society against their thinking about Muslims. And that's how we change it. We don't change it by staying quiet. We change it by making an effort positively, and a positive way is to make a report to the station whenever such things happen. That is not being negative. That is being proactive in protecting ourselves. So yes, we are recommending, and we are all should make that effort in making that change in that direction. That is the only benefit we will get out of that. Otherwise, the phobia will continue to exist amongst us, and people will continue to commit hate crimes as they would have committed against race, as they would commit against any other type of religion or anything like that. That should be reported. So we must not condemn people or insult other people's religion, and likewise, we must not let others do the same to us. So if we say things bad about them and they report us, you must know that they have a right to do that as well. Okay, so go both ways. Even to the MP of the area that you live in, bring up the consciousness and awareness to them. Let them know that we are the Muslims and we are contributing, we are benefiting the society. Even in that organization, that level, that delegation on the Muslims in the community, they must have that level and leverage with their leaders who lead in government amongst them, so that they will clear the air with them as well when it comes to phobia, because we want no one, even on the political level, from the police and the legal level, every aspect is covered. That goes further to us as well to tell us that for every incident of Islamophobia, write a letter to the editor of the newspaper and your local civil rights organizations, anyone who can highlight the problems. Show it up, because that's the only way you can resolve this problem. In this way, it is not bringing an opposite reaction, but is actually beneficial to the people to know that we are not afraid and we are not ashamed to hide anything. We don't have nothing to hide. And that is one of the benefits out of doing this publicly. Organize as well programs at your local masjids and your community centers to inform people, let them know and be aware that what Islam contributes to society, what Islam gives back to the community that they live in, what we do as Muslims and we live around them, what we do as neighbors who are Muslims to neighbors who are non-Muslims. That in itself builds a relationship. We have to go outside there. That is the only way we can resolve issues that are being put into the heads of our community that is totally biased and against what should be right. So to raise those things, this is one of the efforts as well. We must not only just think about one person doing this, but this is a collective effort, or we must involve our youths, because our youths must understand that this is a positive drive to change. Because anytime someone tells you negative things about Islam, how could you deal with this? It's not like just saying, all right, well, you send your child to a maktab class or to an adult class and expect the problem to solve. No. What society is beating out to our children and to the community in general cannot be solved. Cannot be solved by us just saying something. No, we have to go out there, put our children outside there so that they can face each other collectively in a community effort. And that's where they get their strength. That's where their Islam will be stronger. That's where they'll be able to defend themselves publicly and speak out. But if they do not understand that habit and that practice of speaking out, then what will they do? React secretly? What will they do? How will they vent their selves? How will they know how to deal with their anger when people will say things to them? What reaction? Then some other Muslim who are from some other side, they will go on something, encourage them to do something way off. Because we didn't teach them that they live in an environment now that the influence of society must be directed and rechanneled and understood how to display to the community what is the right action that is required for every type of insult or agony that they face outside here. It needs that type of change. That transition maybe 30, 40 years ago, we would not deal with that kind of thing. 40 years ago, we wouldn't have this kind of problem. what we are having today. But what we are having today is that level of fear, that level of, Muslim young men and women, they are afraid to really put their Islam in the forefront, which we'll further discuss later on. But we're just talking about the point here of the phobia itself, that when we are like this, we have to train our children how to deal with it. So next aspect is to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those people who are in the whole of Islamophobia, who are making that effort to destroy Islam and to say things bad about Islam. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to change their hearts. Prophet ﷺ made dua for them people. Prophet ﷺ made dua for people who go against him. One day when the woman was throwing garbage upon him, when he didn't get the garbage, he went to look for her. We must note that we have to do good in respect of those things. Make dua and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to change their condition. Our strength is in our prayer, our effort, and always tell our children that's the dawn and most powerful strength that they have, that Allah has blessed them with. That someone does you something, you don't have to take it out there. Take it to the one who created you and created them. He is the changer of hearts. He is the one who can change the heart and the condition and the situation of anything. Put it before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And don't have any doubt whatsoever that Allah is not going to change it. No doubt whatsoever that Allah could change any condition. All it takes is for us to do the job and leave the rest in the hands of Allah. Make the effort and leave the rest. Pray and leave the rest for Allah. If you have to do something physically, in terms of messaging, doing whatever you have to do all those things. Do everything possible. Channel all your effort in the correct direction. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let your efforts go in vain. Even if you yourself never get the direct results of your effort, maybe a generation to come after will get the result of it, because the effort started. But if we did not make the effort from now, what will we leave for who to come afterwards? What will we leave for people to come afterwards if now we are facing the problem and we allow the problem to escalate? And that's a situation that happened in those countries ahead of us, in those places where you're seeing these things actually have escalated and gone beyond their control. Now they are grappling to actually bring down their actual high tension and crime and murder and all of these things that happen amongst themselves because of this. And now they have made these groups something trying to relieve people to get a better understanding. But when you sow the seed of hate and the actual venom and you actually see people being killed, it's a different thing. It's hard to get out of that environment. It's like we have in Trinidad, they call it gang killing and all kinds of different things. So when one person kills someone, wait till you hear a reprieve, someone trying to attack the next person like that. Every day somebody is being killed. For what reason? Because now it's reached a different level and a different stage. We allow it to get too far. And now we're thinking that, we have to equip more equipment, more police equip. Yeah, right, but this action is still happening. What is lacking is knowledge of how to remove that level of what is happening amongst the people. Be it drugs, be it guns, be it whatever is happening there. Morals in society have to change amongst the youths. So Islamophobia is real and it continues to exist, but it can be removed if we practice upon these few points. Let's look at one of the more interesting topics amongst the youths today and the challenge that they face. The issue of the dress of Muslim youths, tattooing the name of Allah, etc. And it is important to know, mind what you wear. Be mindful of what you wear. You say, what is to be mindful of what you wear? Because what you wear represents who you are. It represents who you are. And it tells of a society that has gone from one level to a different level. Clothes has actually changed and transformed societies. And you say, how that is possible? That is actually the narration of life. Clothes at that time would have been a necessity. To have clothes at certain times was a necessity. They didn't have much clothes because people just had to make 1 piece, 2 pieces of clothes, take time to get the clothes in order, and it was a necessity to have it. Today, clothes is no longer a necessity in terms of what we wear because we have abundance of clothes. But today, clothes is worn for style. A difference. There's a difference. If the clothes don't look good, would you wear it? No. So what that tells us, whether you have the need for the clothes or whether you have what? Style with the need for the clothes. Style becomes dominant in your trend. Before you would leave your home, you would look at what? The mirror to see how the clothes look. And if you find you're feeling uncomfortable in that, you do what? Change it. So it tells you it is more than just what? Humility or protecting you from shame, but it's more about style. That tells us something about society. What it tells us about the society? That there's a level of what? Takabbur, pride amongst us. Even the poorest of people want to also look good. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't look good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that anybody should not look good or try to wear things that, but what I'm trying to get at is that it reflects what we are doing to ourselves. It reflects the nature of what we are. And how does this affect our youths? This is one of the things that actually today is causing problems all over so many situations. People talk about young boys wearing what? Pants half down their way. Alright? And everybody talking, whether it's a Muslim or non-Muslim, talking about it. Even in the schools, they are grappling with it. And in many places, they're dealing with it. Why? What it is it that they need to wear it there? Or is it because of what? Style. It's because of style. It represents what? A bad boy style. Tattoos, for example, and next aspect of what is trending amongst us is that tattoos were not used for what it is used for today. Tattoos were used to represent gangs. You know, gangs, real gangs long ago. They used to stamp themselves, burn themselves with stamps and so on, and image their hands or cut their face or scrap. You know, in Africa they would make marks on their face, stripes. All of these things will represent what? A gang. You belong to this group. So if you go out of that group with that in your skin or on your marks on your face, you might even come back where you come from. But this is what they use to do with those things. It is a means of communication of where you are and your rank that you have. So tattoos were used on that level. Today, tattoos are not about that. Tattoos today are on a further level of what? Style. People would sometimes wear tattoo because they want to represent their what? Religion. So some people will tattoo what? A cross. Or they'll tattoo a or something on their arms or something like that. Or a moon and a star. And put tattoo like this. And it is haram in Islam by the saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what we have to get to is that tattooing, for example, now amongst the young Muslim brothers and sisters, some of them want, if one sister wants to call and find out, she wants to tattoo the name of Allah in the back of her neck. Subhanallah. You know, some brothers, they put tattoo Allah and Muhammad. Which one you want? Allah or Muhammad? Subhanallah. You know, different trends, different types of things. But that's what is happening in our society amongst our own Muslims. Let's leave aside our non-Muslim youths. But it's trending amongst the youths. You know, it is happening amongst us. And they give many types of you know, the rebut when you tell them, well, prove it in the Quran. You know, do it exist there? But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tells us in a hadith narrated by Abdullah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, hadith narrated in Nisa'i, a very sahih hadith that says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentions clearly, he says, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, qala la'an Allahu, he says that Allah curses washimata wal muwashim. That's the one who tattoos and the one who receives the tattoo. The one who puts it on and the one who receives that tattoo. Now, when it comes to that, it continues and tells us, it says, wal wasilatu wal musala, and also the one who takes hair. You know, that's the next style today. Add on hair that you do have. Extension of hair. All right? These things are what? Also what? Cursed in the deen. Now, I'm not saying you're going to tell your children, you know, Allah curse you because you put tattoo. I tell the young girl, Allah curse you because you what? Extend your hair. I'm not trying to say that first. That's what I'm saying. We must understand what the hadith is saying and then understand how to treat with the problem. Because we need to tell them everything in Islam. You tell them, Mummy, I could put a tattoo? No, that's haram in Islam. I could extend my hair? No, that's haram in Islam. And they're going to tell them again, you know, wa akilu riba wa mukila. You know, the one who eats riba and the one who what? Gives riba, who pays riba. Right? Both of it is what? Haram. I could take out a loan in the bank? No, that is haram in Islam. But you do in the bank too? You're telling me it's haram? You know, so they're watching everything that you're telling them. No, there's nothing in Islam where you tell them, no, these are things that they're seeing every day happening to them. Every day they're seeing this happening. Well, muhallal wa muhallal. No, the one who what? Gives halal to a woman who's for divorce, and the muhallal, both of them, the one who he makes it halal for means for the husband who was divorced from his wife, he makes this woman, he marries her, divorces her, and he gets her back, they get back married together. He says, La'an Allahu, Allah curses all of these people. This hadith, you know, it gives a clear indication of the adhab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, what it is in the Sharia that is mentioned here, the curse of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Meaning that it's something that the Rasul sallam totally disliked. Totally disliked. Why would the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam dislike these things? That is what we have to firstly get. Because when you tell a child, no, it's haram in Islam, it's haram in Islam, it's haram in Islam, your child, you never teach them anything growing up about Islam. So the concept of haram means what? Nothing. It means nothing because you only want what is you want to do, but when it comes to them, it becomes haram. No. The concept, firstly, for us to understand is that Rasulullah SAW made this la'ana, this curse, because of what used to take place at that time. Women used to wear this tattoo on their body, put on this tattoo on their body as a means of attracting people of a particular type of nature to be around them. You know, like prostitutes, we call it. So the tattooing was done with a image of recognizing a prostitute. You understand? It gives I won't say a bad girl kind of image, but it puts that in light to that type of behavior. A sign towards that behavior. So we must understand that. When it is mentioned by the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's not that he was saying something that is what? You know, well, if you wear that, you know, no, he just watch you and just say, Allah, this don't like that, and I put a curse on you. No. But it represents a type of attitude and a behavior. Until today, many communities and families will not allow their daughters to do it, be it Muslim or non-Muslim. Why? Because they grow up with this instinct feeling that a child who puts a tattoo has a particular type of behavior. They have a particular way. And sometimes where they will put the tattoo as well is even more interesting. Because you would send your daughter to put a tattoo in a place where you don't want no man to see, no other person to see. Now that is interesting. Because that is actually what? You know, stepping on the line of what? Haram. It is not that you want that when she comes and say, look, you know, I put a tattoo, but me seeing it. No, it's right there. It's somewhere else. You know what I mean? Then what you expect? What you expect? This is the fear. Rasulullah sallam, when he made this statement, is because you'll put this for a purpose. And if that is the purpose you are doing it, is to actually make someone focus on a place their eye not supposed to really what? Focus. And then you're actually doing something that is what? Leaning you towards a direction. So the Rasulullah didn't just give this statement just like that. No, this statement had a what? it had something with it that he wanted to prevent. So in doing it, there's a level of what? Enticing someone on the wrong direction. Men do it for strength, to show that they have power. So sometimes they put it on their muscles and they put it in the chest and they put it in a place where they want to look real strong. You know, that is one of the things that they do it for. But we don't do that. We don't show bravery by putting on those types of things, or strength like that. So Rasulullah didn't just do this out of the thing, you know, there's a reason. So we don't just tell our children that this is haram in Islam. No, we let them know why this happened, what it leads to, what it puts in the minds of people, what is the concept behind it, so that we'll firstly refrain them from going in that direction. So tattooing and its effect, subhanallah, when we hear from the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is that? You tell yourself, nah, that image, I don't want that kind of image. And there's a rebut to this. You know that some fuqaha and scholars did in-depth research as well. You know that there are different layers in your skin. Within the skin, there are different layers. That, you know, the epidermis of the skin, and then there's the middle layer of it, and then to the lower layer. And sometimes when you put cream or you put water, it penetrates to a certain layer within your skin. And they said that between that level, the ink that is placed between the skin is placed in that position that also, like, there's some of them have the opinion that it actually prevents the water for wudu to actually penetrate the spot it's supposed to penetrate, because of where the ink actually lies. Now that's an opinion. It doesn't mean that that is the actual what? Shari'i law, but by science this is also proven that the layer of the skin within the skin itself where this ink actually is placed. So yes, that is also scientifically like that. You could give other reasons. But what is the most important thing to us? Is to understand what the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying to us about it. So inshallah, we have to continue on this particular important aspect of youth and dress and the challenge that they face with this. And it's not something that you can just tell youth, well, you know, they want to do it and they're doing it and they're not looking good and they're behaving bad. No. We have to know what society is also giving for it as well. So inshallah, next week we'll continue at this point. Let's make dua inshallah. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam tabarakta ya Darul jalali wal ikram. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina wa shafi'ina wa habibina wa Maulana Muhammad wa barik wa sallam. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhaban nar. Fa subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
حور العين تناديني فدعيني أماه دعيني لتبكي دموعك يا أمي عن دربي لا لن تثنيني أماه طريقي قد وضحى والقلب يسير به فرحا حرب وجهاد متقد ودم بالعزة قد نضحا حور العين